Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today is June 22, 2025. I want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Please subscribe. Also want to thank Peter Coogan for introducing me to today's guest, Linda Lotiel. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Lotiel,
Lotiel. Thank you. Where are you calling from?
Kiev, Ukraine.
First question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
I guess meaningful connections with other human beings.
That's beautiful. I agree. What's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
I listen a lot, audiobooks and podcasts these days.
Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Well, our brains are imperfect, obviously, so we need to gather it, keep it somewhere. I really like the term extelligence. So intelligence will go inside our brains, and extelligence, this is this collected information that we gather.
Where did you get that term extelligence?
All right. So, yeah, I can tell you that. So, one of my favorite authors is Terry Pratchett. And Terry Pratchett wrote this series of books, Science of Discworld, in which he teamed up with two scientists, a biologist and mathematician. So he created the storyline while they talked about science, kind of popular science book connected with fantasy. So quite an interesting combination. And those two scientists, they introduced the term extelligence when they talked about how consciousness evolved in general, the story of human mind. That's what the book is about.
Wow, you're teaching me a lot. I'm really grateful. So, do you know this radio host, Coyote Network News? Her name is Carolyn Casey.
No.
I want to hook you up with her because she's an amazing thinker and activist, and she's the one who turned me on to Terry Pratchett. So she quotes him a lot, and I'm very intrigued by
Okay.
him in his writing. I'm glad you told me the source of that. Do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
Well, that's innate, and as human beings invent themselves, as consciousness develops, it becomes part of it. It's all interconnected.
Yeah, definitely. Some of these early questions, is it more this or more that? Of course, it's both and it depends, but they're just prompts. I welcome stories, anecdotes, and tangents. So I really appreciate your being concise and articulate. The next question is, do thoughts create emotions?
Everything creates emotions.
Yeah. Fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I
Well, I'm a teacher until I give a lecture on it.
give a lecture. That's good.
That's true.
McCl- McLuhan, I like that. McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. But I like give a lecture on it. Um, can humans think without language?
I doubt it. So you need abstract categories for thinking, and abstract categories come from language. So as a linguist, I know that there are stories of children who are raised by animals, and well, they have great difficulties in learning human language after a certain age. Obviously, they behave basically like animals, and it's hard to say that they can do any thinking. So I doubt it.
Wow, that's no one's ever brought that up in 40 years asking that question because that's I know that a phenomenon through the Francois Truffaut film called The Wild Child, where he's raised in the woods, the human, yeah. Chomsky says language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
All right, it breaks down all the time. So there are options. You can create a new language, the one that will hopefully work. So we're linguists, we know how to do stuff like that. I'm also a dancer, so I can dance about it. Well, I can drink about it.
Oh, that is amazing. There's a saying that goes, if you can't say it, sing it. If you can't sing it, dance it.
Well, exactly. That's what you do.
Yeah. Then it's, if you can't dance it, then drink it.
Yeah, that's what we do in our Ukrainian group, you know. When James Joyce is too much for us, well, okay, we drink about it. We play this continuous drinking game while doing Finnegan's Wake.
That is great. So I'm just, are you implying you drink alcohol or any kind of liquid?
Well, let's say any kind of liquid, but mostly alcohol.
Yeah. What specifically? Beer, whiskey? Is there any specific wine?
So anyone can drink what they want, but we have drinking cues, right? So when we prepare for a session, we come up with the list of drinking cues. For example, HC or Coincidentia Oppositorum, or for example, Buckley shoots the Russian general. That's a favorite for Ukrainians. So when this comes up on the text, we drink.
Right. Drinking cues, cues, cues.
Cues, yes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful ritual. Who thought that ritual up? Drinking cues.
I'm afraid it was me because I love playing this. So with friends, we watch films sometimes together with drinking cues, and I've discovered that it's a wonderful thing to do together with friends, and it can get you through any film that otherwise would be difficult to watch. So you see the logical connection with Finnegan's
Yeah.
Wake. We're in here for a long time, so we must think of ways of getting ourselves through this.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm curious, are you into Robert Anton Wilson?
Oh no, that's Alexander from our group. That's his thing, not mine.
Not yours, okay, because he is one that kind of propagates, when you're reading the wake, you should be drinking, and having, or not so much drinking cues, but have drink available. Okay, so your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
Well, we are all definitely feeling beings, and some of us occasionally are also thinking.
Yeah. Bridget Bardot says, when I make love, I don't think. I'm like, good luck. How do you turn your brain off? Or like people who meditate, they go, oh, think about not thinking. And there's a bumper sticker on a car in my street and it says, don't believe everything you think. And I'm like, well, you could say, don't believe everything you feel.
Is that a question?
Well, just any thoughts. Yeah. A lot of times I'll just respond with thoughts, but you don't have to respond to them. They're just prompts. Yeah.
Well, obviously you don't believe every single thing that pops into your head. I mean, it's a process. A lot of things are going on there. Okay.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite responses ever to my interviews. Is that a question?
No, because I was not sure, right?
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, because see, I'm trying to always expand the form and transform the form of an interview, because one of my other favorites was a woman who's a filmmaker, and she says, is that a real question?
Yeah,
So
that's good.
you,
Wow.
you, you, you condensed it down. Is that a question?
Right.
So So these are two questions from Alan Turing from the 50s. One is thinking a function of the soul.
No such thing as soul. I'm an atheist.
Yeah. The second Turing question is can machines think?
Oh, well, not yet. As far as I know, maybe they've already started, but nobody has informed me yet about it. But well, about this, I'm not sure, or what is going to happen with artificial intelligence, extelligence. We'll have to wait and see.
Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Well, I'm just trying to survive. First, there's war in my country, so it's more about survival. But I can put it in the context of our group, right? So Finnegan's Wake Reading Group. Uh, we are more in pursuit of happiness. We're doing this together, and it's important for us that everybody is having a good time. Lots of fun. That's like the important thing. Lots of fun in Finnegan's Wake. But even the process, we unexpectedly uncover some meanings. Well, great, but we are not in there for meanings.
Beautiful. Again, I appreciate how concise and articulate you are because I got that question from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And he says that happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning tends to last. Would you
Wow,
agree
that
with?
was no. uh, what does it mean? Meaningless in what sense? I don't know what he meant. Maybe he had some context in mind. I'm not sure. But when you create this happiness, when you're doing some group activity, that's meaningful. That's what I
Yeah.
said answering your first question.
Yeah.
Meaningful connections. That's
Yeah.
meaningful.
Yeah. Very good. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
No, well, it's rather creating because thinking is the process of consciousness. It's a process. And as we have talked with you a little bit earlier, right, we might not be aware of everything, you're paying attention, detecting, and so on. But the process just goes on.
Yeah. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Speed of light, speed of thought is an oxymoron. Some people take a long time to think about stuff.
Yeah. There's a poet, Audre Lorde. She said, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague, Yvonne Rainer, said, oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest? And I'm not implying the tool has to be tangible.
Okay. Right. So yeah, I think I know that essay. That was it was about feminism, right? So she was talking about male patriarchy, and you cannot dismantle it, obviously, using male patriarchy, something like that, right? It was that essay.
That's yes, that's right, correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Well, in that case, it makes sense, obviously, right? So context really helps. But generally, dismantle, I don't know, this using the same tools, quite possible. That's a metaphor, and you can unpack this metaphor any way you like. So, new tool, you mean like new tool, something that has not been used to dismantle something, or new tool to do what?
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because I open some of my questions with cute quotes. It doesn't mean you have to apply them. The basic question is what tool do you most gravitate towards? If you want to put it in the context of dismantling the master's house, that's fine. And if you want to add the word new, that's fine. But it's really, I'm saying, what tool do you most gravitate towards?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me just put it again into the context of our group because it at least makes sense. It's because when it's too abstract, I really don't know which direction to go. But here we have this direction ready, right? So apart from drinking cues that you already know of and my mind maps, we have let's call it a tool. Why not? So one of us, Igor, creates what we call a matrix. So while preparing for a session, he's in search of some kind of meaning, connections, rather connections and associations. And he creates this visual, verbal scheme, diagram. Every time it's a little bit different, we call it a matrix. And this is a tool. This is like a skeleton key that we use. So we apply it to understand or at least to approach a fragment from Finnegan's Wake better. So that matrix that Igor comes up with, that's the tool.
That's beautiful. So again, I appreciate you putting them into the context you want, which is our commonality in a lot of ways, Finnegan's Wake reading clubs. But I think I've seen some of these matrices on your Blue Sky account. If it's not a drawing, then there's some chart, and that's what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yes, that's that.
Excellent. I would love to interview him. What's his name again?
Igor Belokrinitsky.
His first name is spelled how?
Igor.
Igor. Oh, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So, what toy do you gravitate towards? I ask people about the tool question, and then someone says, well, what about a toy? So I just, a flip of it is, what toy do you gravitate towards?
Okay, toy. That reminds me of a TV show that I absolutely love, The Good Place. And have you seen it? It's like heaven and hell situation. And when people create, when they do something new, any new activity, so someone up there in the authority, they have to attribute some scores. So will it lose them points, right? Or will they get some points doing this activity? And they say like 99 of this new activity that humans come up with is weird sex things, right? So they create sex toys. So why don't we create a new sex toys with Finnegan's Wake? That's a perfect sex toy. So you get a book of Finnegan's Wake and a partner, right? You open a random page and you read a random line and then you do it sexually in bed.
Yeah. No, that is brilliant. So you're saying you made up that toy, but it was inspired by the TV show Good Place.
Yes, because The Good Place, yes, because most new things that people come up with is somehow related to sex these days, according to the show. Obviously, I don't know.
Yeah. In Good Place is an American TV show?
It's an American TV show, yes, quite recent. Lots of philosophy in it, and it's about the philosophy of today's world. So what is good and bad? How do we navigate morality in this new, crazy, brave world?
What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Well, I'm in Ukraine, in Kiev, and we have a fascist neighbor, Russia. So they practically every night send missiles. So what I worry is, am I going to wake up in the morning? So in Kiev, we have this meme nowadays that work schedule is very flexible for people in Ukraine. If you are alive, when you wake up, you go to work. If you're not alive, when you wake up, you don't.
Yeah. Wow, I feel for you. So McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound, the poet, that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Linda, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Hidden psychic effects of our inventions. Can you give me an example of that?
So a good one is like Zoom. People, now me and you are talking and we live across the world. This is television telephone. It started in the year that Finnegan's Wake came out, 1939, but it became a reality in 2001, Kubrick's film, and the guy calls his daughter from a spaceship and wishes her happy birthday on television telephone, which is Zoom. And so we don't know what Zoom has done to us. We just embraced it. So once COVID hit, I started doing all my interviews on Zoom and it became worldwide and so much easier.
Mhm.
But we don't know really how it shapes our behavior in totality. So there's sort of a word called unintended consequences or things that are deeper. The deeper message to Finnegan's Wake is a hidden psychic effect. We don't know what Finnegan's Wake groups really do to us. Me and you are intelligent people. We could suss it out in words, but there's probably something deeper going on that some people could articulate and others don't see. So it's like, how do our inventions, when we invent spoken word, printed word, cell phones, pens, how do they really deeply affect our psyche? So it's sort of like unintended consequences. Are you familiar with that term?
Yes, right. But your question, yes, I get this. But your question was like that who artist that they what say something about this hidden psychic effects and we ignore them. That's what I was asking for example of. So
Yeah.
someone
So,
is saying Zoom is going to do this to you, and we, you and me, we are ignoring this. Is this the? But who
well,
is?
not so much. Me and you might not ignore all the hidden psychic effects of
Yeah,
our
well,
inventions because we're both kind of we're artists, let's say. And I'm not trying to be elitist, but I'm trying to say some people look to art to coddle them and make them feel good. And then they don't realize that the artist was saying something deeper, and that's okay. They don't have to understand. The artist doesn't even have to understand that they're revealing something deeper. And maybe they're not always, but sometimes, let's say artists are telling us something a little deeper. So it's really, the basic question is why do humans sometimes don't go for the deeper meanings of things?
oh, well.
And so again, I don't want to sound elitist. I want everybody ignore. Me and you ignore sometimes, and ignore might not be the proper verb. It's like me and you versus the wording on the question. So I'm glad you're trying to help me suss that out. But it's sort of like, when you look at Guernica by Picasso, or you see one of your drawings, your illustrations, there's some, I stared at them for a while this morning, and there's something deeper going on there. On the surface, it looks I can understand it, but maybe there's something a little deeper. And sometimes humans ignore wanting to go deeper and understand deeper meanings. And the question is basically why.
All right, so that's a kind of a different question. So the way I understand the question now is that why don't people always go deeper in search of meanings and so on? Well,
Yeah.
that requires a lot of thinking, and as I have already said, not everyone is so fond of thinking. It actually costs us a lot in terms of energy. Thinking, it requires a lot of calories and everything. So it's perfectly normal preservation strategy not
Yeah.
to go into deeper meaning sometimes and actually preserve that energy for something else.
Yeah. No, that's a good term, preservation strategies. I love it. Thank you. Do artists have moral obligation?
Well, if human beings in general have moral obligations, if we believe that, then of course artists have them as well.
Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
I don't think the age of ideas is relevant. If an idea is scary, it's scary.
Yeah. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Um, yeah, yes, I suppose so. I remember my father drawing. He was an architect and he was a painter too. and that was always his happy place to go somewhere, nature, and the greener the better, and just to paint trees, and he would ignore everything, wind, sun, mosquitoes, just happy in his art. And I remember him doing it when I was a little girl.
Beautiful. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Both, depending on what it is that you can't forget.
Yeah. Tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
Um, all right, so I already started talking about my father. So he was the greatest impact in many ways. Probably, very importantly, his sense of humor. He was that kind of person that could joke with everyone on their level. I could just hear him like changing his style of humor with different people depending on his understanding or what will be acceptable and funny for them, children, grown-ups, people of different backgrounds.
Beautiful. I'm curious, you speak English really well. Did your dad speak English as well as you did?
Oh no, not at all. It was a Soviet Union person. My parents come from the Soviet Union. People did not speak foreign languages, well, unless it was their job or they were diplomats, something like that.
And you learned it in school, English?
Yes, I started learning English when I was 6, and it was not school because in Soviet school it was next to impossible to learn English. It was like evening classes, let's say, with a teacher who was quite good. I was lucky to have her, but it was very difficult to learn foreign languages back in the Soviet Union. But fortunately for us, that monster collapsed, and after that, a lot of opportunities to improve your language came along, and I used them.
Beautiful. I would love to probe where your dad's sense of humor came from, but let's go on. The same question, Linda, outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you, and what was that impact?
Okay, so let's take a teacher from my horrible Soviet school, but there was one who stood out. He taught computer studies, and those were very first computers. We did not have computers at home. We only saw them in school for the first time. But that teacher he loved the Japanese language, and he told me the thing that my literature teachers should have told me, but never did. He told me about the love of languages, and he had this metaphor of philological saliva that you get in your mouth before opening a new text. That had an impact on me because for the first time I realized that a language is a pleasure in itself.
Wow. Philosophical saliva.
Philological, not philosophical.
Okay,
Philological,
philological.
not my kind of saliva.
I love that. That's a beautiful term. Okay, so did your parents raise you a particular religion?
No,
Do you pray?
no.
If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
So, as I said, I'm an atheist. So, if I die and I see God, I wouldn't, right? Because I would go to hell. But all right, let's imagine. So, okay, so I'm dead and there's God. I don't want him, I don't want him to talk. Let him sing, okay? Something like an extra from Jesus Christ Superstar. I would really love him to get his heavenly harp, and sing something really nice to me. That would be great.
No, you want him to sing something to you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. He
like
can dance. He can dance too. That would be lovely.
an extra from Jesus Christ Superstar.
I love that. fun.
Yeah, dance and sing.
Mhm.
All right, I like that. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Once again, that's a religious idea that there is some kind of personification of evil outside evil. No, I don't believe that. But of course, so some people are born with qualities, maybe they get them as part of their nurture that within our moral systems are considered to be evil.
Really, the hidden question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai: keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I respond to Alan Watts, come and live in Ukraine in 2025, okay? We acknowledge our enemy. We say, this is our enemy, and we're going to fight our enemy. It's not making our enemy stronger.
Yeah.
Other things do, okay? And Fellini, come on, you need an enemy. Okay, go get yourself one. What do you need him for? For some creative process? Well, good for you. But I'm having a very, very different experiences right now.
You are so articulate and concise. And I don't mean to ask these questions and not be aware of your situation. So these are general philosophical questions, and you're handling beautifully. But it is similar to Nassim Taleb said, games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. How do you what do we do with an enemy after they're caught? So like Gregory Bateson, the anthropologist, says, if the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, oh, I did something morally and socially wrong? So can you tell me an incidence where punishment works? Does punishment work, is sort of the question.
So the question is about punishment.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Not about what you do when you catch an enemy, because well, that's very contingent. Okay. So punishment. Well, from whose point of view are we looking at that? Of course, from the point of view of society. Well, if that is the punishment that restricts this person and prevents them from doing some harm to humans again, well, all right, then probably there is something to it. But if we look at it from the point of view of human being, is it going to make things better for him, improve him, whatever? I doubt it, but that also depends on how you administer the punishment.
Yeah, it's sort of like a question I've been struggling with, and you being the great linguist you are, and you're so articulate, you could help me. Should I say, what rehabilitation do you suggest? Like, does rehabilitation help? You know, in
Yes,
some, yeah,
the word itself, rehabilitation, so much better than punishment, because
yeah,
how can you just, yes, punishment helps what, helps how? By
yeah,
rehabilitation, I hope people will start thinking in terms of rehabilitation, and just as you said, thinking on which method of rehabilitation to choose. What resources do we have to provide it? How do we connect it with the context, with community, how it will contribute to
yeah.
everyone?
Yeah, because they should have Finnegan's Wake reading clubs in every jail in America, across the world. It would involve people. And I know people who've taught theater in jails, and they've had successful relationships with these people. So, it's called the prison industrial complex here in America, and it's a big problem. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago, Volta Cinema. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
All right, good. So let's bring up another of my favorite authors, Tolkien. The term that he introduced was subcreation. He was a Catholic, of course. So for him, it was the religious thing. God can create, but people are given this power to subcreate. So if to remove the religious side of it, the way I see it, for human beings, it's not a lot enough. A tree is not enough. We need to make a statement about the tree. We need to share our vision of the tree. Other people must know how we see that tree. To continue the metaphor of subcreation, we need to create our versions of the world and share them.
Yeah, it's really well put. That's sort of my mantra. I appreciate how you articulate you are. So, walk me through your tipping points where you decided to become an educator, not where so much, but how and why and where you decide to become an educator and to become an artist. And, what did you study in high school and college? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's start with artist part. I'm not an artist. I'm just an amateur. I'm doing the sketches, mind maps, and I have always been doing them. My father was a painter, and for me to draw was very natural. So I started doing it as a little kid, and I just never stopped. I just always do it. But my profession is philology. And very early on, I discovered my love of languages. So it was very natural for me to try and make it my profession. It didn't matter much what it would be teaching languages or doing some other, like translating. What mattered was engaging with languages. That's what I loved. I loved English and I wanted to learn more languages. So I have learned other languages as well, and I'm continuously learning language. So the tipping point, I don't know, at 6 years old, I heard the English language, and that was the tipping point. I knew this is what I love.
How many languages do you speak, or like, what are you fluent in? What languages?
Well, fluent in three, obviously. My mother tongues, the Ukrainian and Russian. English, I'm fluent in that. And I have also studied at different points in my life German, Spanish, French, and Italian. So at the moment, I'm learning Italian and I'm determined to become fluent in it.
Really good. A screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. Two fields. What role does intention play in your creative process as an educator, in your creative process as a mind mapper?
Okay, so as for the general idea of the intention here, I'm firmly with Umberto Eco, who said that, well, there are intentions of the author, but who cares? The intention of the text is the intention that we should engage ourselves with as we are reading, not what the author intended, but what the text actually says. So now back to me. Obviously, as an author of anything, of a text, of I don't know, of a lesson, of a mind map, I have my intentions, but I realize that it's a process, and the final result, whatever it might be, will be different from what I wanted and from where I started. So I'm fine with that. And I tell myself, let's see where this will take me. That said, I'm also a planner. For example, if I'm writing a text, I plan a lot, but then I allow this space for the story to unfold in its own way.
Thank you for bringing up Umberto Eco. That was a fine point. I appreciate that. And McLuhan says everything we invent. Oh, no. First of all, this one. Marcel Duchamp says there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your students when you're teaching? And how much are you thinking of your viewer when you're mind mapping?
Mm-hmm. Well, in teaching, of course, it's a very student-oriented activity. It's all about students. So, of course, I prefer small groups where I know absolutely everyone. I know their level of English. I know what we're going to achieve. So, my audience determines everything I'm going to do. With mind maps, that's more about art, let's say. But still, of course, my first audience is my Ukrainian group. Well, I literally put what they say on my mind map because there are quotes from James Joyce, there are quotes of what people said in the session, plus some of my associations, connections, and so on. But I'm thinking of them, but since it just happens so that these mind maps are also seen by other people. So sometimes I have them in mind, this hypothetical reader of Finnegan's Wake, because I'm not sure who else will look at them, honestly. But someone who is not in our group, and sometimes I think, what will they make of it? But that's a fleeting thought. It's not as important as our group, because this is the reflection of our group, like through me.
Are your mind maps on Finnegan's Wake only available for people to see online on your Blue Sky account? Is that the only place you can see them?
Yes, at the moment there's also Bobby Campbell's website for Maybe Night, right? He put together this Maybe Night event, and there he put all the mind maps that I did last year, 2024. All of those are on that website. But the
So
new ones, mhm.
I saw a website, maybeday.net. You said maybe night? It's NIGHT?
Well, yes, that's Maybe Night. That so Maybe Day. That's their Wilson side of things, and Maybe Night, that Finnegan's Wake side of things. That Maybe Night, the 21st of December. That's the date of celebration of Finnegan's Wake, created by Bobby Campbell. So on his website, there is a page with my mind maps and lots and lots of other resources as well on Finnegan's Wake.
In Bobby Campbell's website, maybe night.net or .com. Do you know?
I don't know. I think if you Google,
I'll look at.
yeah, you can easily find, or I can send a link.
Is Bobby located in America or where?
Yeah.
In US. Okay, thank you. So here's McLuhan in 1957. He wrote In Classroom Without Walls. It's misleading to suppose there's any basic difference between education and entertainment. It's like setting up a distinction between didactic and lyric poetry on the ground that one teaches and the other one pleases. However, it's always been true that whatever pleases teaches more effectively. My question is, how do you suss out the difference? Is there a difference between education and entertainment? And what does this mean? Teaches more effectively. It's always been true that whatever pleases teaches more effectively. Any thoughts on that?
Right.
I'm glad you're laughing because we're here to have fun.
Yeah. Lots of fun. So it has been ongoing debate with teaching languages. Should, like, for example, teaching languages be fun, make it fun for your students, because then they learn effectively. My personal philosophy on this, it is that it has to be a balance of pleasure and pain. If it's
Yeah,
just pleasure when you're learning language, maybe you're not doing enough, because languages are complex systems and there will be something in them that's not so fun. But from the point of view of education, well, yes, there is still a little bit difference left between education and entertainment. But personally, I do feel sometimes, as an actor, as a director, as a clown, as a dominatrix, all of those things. So teaching is an interesting process.
yeah. Did you learn how to be a professor, or were you had to self-teach? They just said, "Okay, you're hired for this job," but did they teach you how to be a teacher?
Yes, that was part of my education, how to be a teacher. But it's pointless. It's all pointless. No, you learn how to be a teacher by teaching,
Yeah,
by your hands-on experience.
yeah. McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness. Knife and fork extends our teeth. Shutter and a camera extends our eyelid. It may be even non-tangible, say religion or philosophy extends consciousness. What is the writing utensil, the pen and pencil, your color? What do you use, color pencils or color felt markers? What humanness does the writing utensil extend for you?
Okay, humanness. Well, mm, why humanness? I mean, so our animal side, for example, our body, is that our humanness? That's our animal. That's our animal side, physicality, right? Our humanness is thinking, our consciousness. That's what differentiates us from animals. So, if we talk about extension of our humanness, you mentioned Nassim Taleb, right? So in his book Black Swan, he talked about this cognitive biases that we have, and my favorite is this narrative fallacy. So we attribute connections and we impose narrative of things that are not, they are chaotic, full of coincidences, but we see this, we put this narrative. So I think our writing utensils extend specifically this, our ability to our weakness of creating narrative fallacies. So we
Yeah.
extend this and we do it with utensils as well.
The weakness to extend narrative fallacy.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. An Italian poet, I says, "What does a pen extend for you?" And he goes, "My tears."
exactly. That's more like it.
I actually wanted to go back because everybody I ask, what's the difference between entertainment and education? Whatever pleases teaches more effectively. And everybody would go, yeah, that's true, blah, blah, blah. No one except one guy before you said, no, whatever displeases teaches more effectively. And what, excuse me, what you were saying is both pain and pleasure teaches. So
Absolutely.
I like your balance there. That was beautiful. So let's go into art for a second. In general, what Joyce was creating. Mike Kelly says art is making your problems other people's problems. Any comment?
Nope. But well, it's nicely put. Sometimes you look at some art and you think, okay, I'm glad I don't have these dudes' problems.
Yeah. This is poet Fanny Howe. The point of art is to show people that life is worth living by showing that it isn't. Any comment?
Well, I don't know what kind of art he was thinking, Dostoevsky, whatever, some horrible Russian literature. I don't know. But no, art is so much more. You can show whatever in whatever way. This is just one of the multitudinous ways you can show stuff.
Thank you. This is Milan Kundera, Unbearable Likeness of Being. This is why I love writing, because the character that I'm writing about can go further than I can. Yeah, right. I'm going to take a pencil and write a character on a piece of paper. How can that character go further than I can?
Well, to go further than the author, that's a metaphor that depends how you once again interpret this metaphor. You can interpret it, can this character achieve more than the author? Of course, absolutely. And then you're creating something that's based on wishful thinking. Some people criticize writing based on wishful thinking. Personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So go ahead and fulfill your dreams in your work. Why not? But
Yeah.
it also makes me think of Eliezer Yudkowsky. Do you know him? So he is really into rational thinking, rationality. He wrote this famous fan fiction, Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality. So he wrote about creating intelligent characters, and he said, whatever you do, you can't create a character who is more intelligent than the author. So in this sense, your character cannot go further than the author.
Yikes. Please spell his last name.
Yudkowsky, it's Yud Kovwsky, I think, Yudkowsky.
And his first name?
Eliezer.
E.
Eliez or Ser. I'm not sure about the spelling.
Okay, good. I'll look it up. That was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's jump into Joyce. You're growing up, you're studying languages, you're reading. What's your history with Joyce? Did you find Joyce by being assigned it at school or on your own? And what did you start with in the Joyce?
Right. So I studied philology at university, and we had a course in English and American literature. Joyce was in this course. We were not assigned any reading on it, but he was mentioned in a lecture, and he was mentioned in terms that he's one of the greatest modernism, blah, blah, blah. And I thought that I absolutely have to read some of Joyce. So I read The Dubliners when I was a student, and I also bought, but I did not read Ulysses in translation. I kind of bought it, I looked at it, and I decided I'm not ready yet, but I knew that I would become ready one day. And I was waiting for this moment. I remember that in 2020, yes, I think COVID was 2020, right? So during COVID, there was this show staged with David Tennant and Michael Sheen. They are kind of rehearsing a play together on Zoom, okay, during COVID. And the sister of one of those, she said, I'm reading Ulysses in COVID. I've read it already twice. It's divine. And I thought, this is my sign. Okay, this is COVID. And I think I'm ready to take on Ulysses. And in 2021, I got like another push and very big sign. So I read it in 2021. After that, Alexander and I met while we were reading Ulysses in 2021, and we thought that one day we should also try Finnegan's Wake, but then we were not doing anything. But then we read that article that I think everybody read about your group doing it for 28 years, and we talked to each other. We said, okay, right, okay, we've got to start doing it, right? Time is running out. Let's do it. And that's how we started our group in 2023.
2023. So you're implying the article everybody read was the Guardian article?
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And so Alexander and you start in 2023 at Finnegan's Wake Reading Club.
Mm-hmm.
And so just to, you meet in person or on Zoom?
So we met online while reading Ulysses, but we've met also in real life because he comes from Kiev. He's in Paris now, but we've met in real life. But our sessions are on Zoom because our group members, they are now all around the world.
How many members about?
So now I'd say about 10. And now we have gone like international. We used to have our sessions in Ukrainian, but now we have members who don't speak Ukrainian. So we now do it in English, and we have a member from Ireland, from Germany. So we are international, but Ukrainians are the heart of this group, and that will remain so, hopefully, while it lasts.
Beautiful. I'm so happy to hear about your group. And what's your process? 2 hours, one page? What do you do in a little section, or how much do you read out loud and then discuss?
So we take on about 3 pages, and we agreed before the session that we are going to read like these 3 pages, and that's my responsibility to choose the next bit. So I'm trying to pick more or less like a logical piece, so not stopping in the middle of the sentence, but as far as possible, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we read it before the session, so Igor creates his matrix. I am compiling the list of drinking cues that are relevant for this segment. And then we have a session. During our session, we read out loud and we discuss. As we discuss, we drink to our drinking cues. We share our theories, our emotions, associations, meanings, if we have been fortunate to find any. And we quite often invite guests. So that's how we invited Bobby Campbell and Lorenzo, who has always been on your show, and Finn Fortnam, who is a prominent scholar. And we also had guests from Finnegan's Wake podcasts. So there is One Little Gold Theater podcast, and there is Cold Reading podcast. And all of these people have been our guests.
Beautiful. How much do you think Joyce got the wake, and how much do you, Linda, get the wake? I know it's a stupid question, just from 0 to 100%.
Me, Linda, has read about 100 pages. I mean, our group has read now 100 pages. So I'm very far from even attempting. Obviously, I will have to read the whole of it. And then probably, if you ask me, I will try to think in terms of percent. But as to Joyce himself, he is a mysterious figure to me. I don't think that he could get it, all of it, obviously not, because as I said, Umberto Eco, right, the intention of the text. He had his intentions, he wrote his text. His text is something else entirely. Did he even get to read the whole of it and get an opinion of what it created? I'm not sure, I don't know, but I wouldn't give him more like than 70%. That's tops, 70.
70, really good, 70%. But you're saying you get it 10, 50, 80%. Where's your number? Just your guess number.
13 is a nice number. I'll go with 13. Yeah, 13.
See, I would disagree, Linda, because you are in a Finnegan's Wake reading club and such an integral part of it. You get it 80%. You get it more than Joyce because that is the wake. It is. So what did Joyce do? 10 years before the book came out, he invented Finnegan's Wake reading clubs with that book. So in 29, he invented it. So it's just like if you've ever heard my obnoxious statement, Joyce invented Zoom and disguised it as a book. Or, Joyce invented whatever's going to be after the internet and disguised it as a book. So that's the next question. What's going to be after the internet? What's your guess?
Okay, so that's an optimistic question. You're implying we're going to survive after this.
But what's your guess? What is going to be after the internet?
Oh, well, I suppose a variation of telepathy. We will be, it will be transhumanism, or we will be somehow technologically advanced. We'll just, well, it will be just where we'll be all connected in this new kind of web, part biological, part digital.
This is portrait. I will try to express myself in some mode of life or art as freely as I can and as wholly as I can, using for my defense the only arms I allow myself to use: silence, exile, and cunning. What do those three words mean to you in your Joyce studies? Silence, exile, and cunning.
Well, so that is Jan Steven, right? Pompous, obviously. So he's only beginning his journey. I suppose what he meant by silence is that probably that he's not going to comment on his work. He's going to produce his art and just stay away from commenting on it. Or maybe he's not going to comment on, I don't know, any relevant burning issues of the day, and that's connected with exile. Maybe exile is not just physical going to a different country, but also distancing himself from any ideology, institution, politic, and so on. Not sure, but cunning is easy. Cunning, well, Tolkien used cunning in the same sense. It's the sense of being the craftsman, being the master of your art, finding this cunning, intricate, sophisticated ways of doing things. I'm sure he meant that.
Yeah. Also in portrait, he says, I encounter for the millionth time the reality of experience, and to forge in the smithy of my soul the uncreated conscience of my race. I'm curious your thoughts on that smithy of my soul and uncreated conscience of my race. Any thoughts on those phrases?
Yeah. Did you say conscious or conscience? I think it was
Yeah,
conscious.
it is CONSCIENCIE, conscience.
Science, conscience. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was conscience. Yeah, well, once again, very pompous metaphor, but memorable. Okay, very arrogant, ambitious. But as to creating the conscience, well, one person does not create a conscience of a race. It's, I think, up to the race afterwards to say, like, look at it and say, look, yeah, well, yeah, you did. That's my conscience. Do they do this with Joyce in Ireland? Not so sure. They have definitely turned him in a very big event in their culture with Bloomsday and everything, but there's much more to their conscience.
Beautiful. Richard Ellman said, we are learning to be Joyce's contemporaries. Now, this can be interpreted various ways, and I'm curious your interpretation, but I'm going to throw out mine first. That is, both Joyce and Frank Zappa said all times are happening now. That's called all at onceness. And it's also could be meaning, that we are learning to live in the era of Joyce, when he lived. Oh, I can duplicate how Dublin looked by reading my book. So your take on what Ellman was thinking about. We are learning to be Joyce's contemporaries, and this idea of all at onceness, all times are happening now.
Well, I really don't care what Elman was thinking because that's the intention of the author. Who cares? I can tell you what I think.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I mean. Yeah, yeah.
mhm. Okay, so we're learning to be contemporaries of Joyce. Once again, in our group, we can feel it very much because of all those references to Dublin and the world in the times where Joyce lived, especially the songs. So there are so many songs, and I'm trying to listen to everyone. So Gerry from our group, there is a Gerry in our group. That's the Irish guy. So he has compiled um, um, a list of songs, and I think he put together this playlist of songs that are in Finnegan's wake. And I'm also compiling my own, but like slowly and so on. I'm trying to listen to them because I think it's very important to hear what his times sounded like, all the songs that were playing in his head as he was writing. Because when I can recognize, sometimes I can recognize a song, for example, from the recent bit that we've read, Olwen Zine, I know this one, okay, or other song, some songs by Robert Burns, I know Christmas songs, I know a lot of those. Nursery rhymes, Yankee Doodle, and so on. So when I like hear them, and when I'm reading out loud, I'm trying to put that tune into them, but I don't know even I don't know 1/10 of that, even less. So I'm learning to be his contemporary in terms of music, at least. I know that I can't be in any other respect. But that's one part. That's oneness of all times. That's quite a different thing. That's a little bit too abstract for me, so I'll pass.
Right, but what about predictive? When you see email and Bluetooth or what these things that predict the future in the wake, do you stay away from those or do you explore those? Some of the hardcore Joyceans like, no, the wake is not predictive. So what if the word email is in there? Are you have any opinions on the wake as predictive text?
No, I don't think it predicted anything in any like meaningful way. It's just the text is so rich. All of these portmanteaus, all of this, the crazy phrases. It's just you can apply its applicability. It's actually what Tolkien said about the Lord of the Rings, because they said, oh, so the rain is this. Nuclear bomb, obviously, and it's so applicable to this war and to this war. And he loved saying that its applicability, it's the story you apply it, you see patterns. It's not that it was written about or predicted anything. I think the same is true about Finnegan's Wake.
Right, but not that Joyce, back to your ignore the intentions. He might not have had the intention, but the user is the content is what Marshall McLuhan updated the medium as a massage or medium to mid-career. So if the user, do you have any qualms with people saying, oh, Joyce was predicting, email?
Well, they can say whatever they want. I just don't think he predicted anything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
But I'm fine. People say that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah. In Finnegan's Wake on page 12, he says, we may see and hear nothing. Frank Zappa said, nothing is what I want, a true Zen saying. So I don't know if you know Decio. He's written books from Brazil on the wake and sailing. He says that the eye is space and the ear is time. And, there's other people. Thomas Jackson Rice in Cannibal Joyce talks about eye and ear, space and time. The death, stone, life, tree, and stem. So these dualities, whatever you want to call them, consequences of opposites, binaries, blah, blah, blah. But, uh, Dante wanted to go to paradise so he could go beyond time and space. Any thoughts on this comparing with the waking mind? The ear is time and the eye is space.
Well, it's our ineluctable modality of the visible and the audible. So it started in Ulysses chapter 3, right, on Sandymouth Beach, and it keeps going. Yes, in the wake, there's so much of this uh, eye and ear. And in the last fragment that we've read, there are other senses as well, and nice interplay of different senses. I'm not sure what the question was, but yeah, I think I've answered it.
Yeah. Well, it's like we call it sense ratio shifting. That the act of reading is basically an eye experience, but
Mm-hmm.
Joyce shifted it to being an ear experience because you got to hear it as you're seeing the words, you know. So this is back to something you touched on, and this is Tom Waits. I like beautiful melodies telling me terrible things. The world is a hellish place, and bad writing is destroying the quality of our suffering.
All right. Yes, I agree. You need to suffer with style. So please, if you want to create art about suffering, you should have very high standards. Absolutely.
Now, you're not being facetious, you're being honest.
Of course I am.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to clarify.
No,
So
no, no,
this,
I mean it. I mean it. Yes.
yeah, no, I appreciate that because I think it's funny that Tom Waits uses the word the quality of our suffering because
Mhm,
Oscar Wilde says all bad poetry springs from genuine feeling.
mhm.
You know, and I mean, if you're at a cocktail party with highbrow literature people and you go, have you ever read Joyce? And they go, yeah, Ulysses is great. And they go, how about Finnegan's Wake? They go, he went too far, that's rubbish, you know, and they diss it. So they don't get that it was that bad writing. Well, no, we think it's great writing, but some people think it's, you know, could cause sexual diseases, whatever. So here's Leo Bersani, his study of Mallarmé, the symbolist. The very crises that threatens the writing of poetry sustains poetic composition. Any thoughts on what that means or what for you and what, if any, application to Joyce? The very crises which threatens the writing of poetry sustains poetic composition.
It's like, do we need crisis to create kind of thing? I don't know. Probably we need crisis, but sometimes, would be nice to create without any significant crisis.
Yeah. What was the motive of the cave artist? Your guess or hunch?
The mode.
The motive, Motive.
All
Motive.
right. I think just what I said about art in general holds true for any kind of art, cave art, Renaissance art. So it was just this dude with a vision, right? Whatever it was, Buffalo Hunt. Okay, that's the same mode. I subcreate. I create my own world, and you guys, you've got to see this. That's it. That's the mode.
Yeah. Because Steve Martin loves to quote David Mamet, art is a product of the unconscious mind. Any comment?
No, well, I am pretty conscious when I create art. I don't know. So as I said about my process, I said that I kind of let it go. So maybe that's the unconscious component. So I would once again vote for the balance of the opposing forces.
Yeah. What's more important, conviction or compromise?
Well, it's a false dichotomy. It's very context related. I cannot answer it just like that.
Yeah. And in fact, the poet critic Helen Vendler just died. She goes, I write to explain things to myself. Do you think you're doing your mind mapping to explain things to yourself?
Mm, rather to, what was that, the extension of humanity, extension of our sessions. I keep talking to my colleagues in this journey, right, co-travelers. I keep talking to them. I extend our sessions like this.
In your accomplishments, how do you rate these three elements, luck, skill, and ambition? What played the biggest role, second and third?
Oh, and then not a lot of accomplishment. Okay, right. Ambition. Well, all three, I suppose. I can't say I've had that much of luck. Probably a little bit less of luck. Ambition. Do I even have ambition? So a little bit more of skill, a little bit less of luck, and uncertain amount of ambition.
Two of my film heroes have this mantra, ignore yourself. There's no self-expression. In fact, the great jazz pianist Cecil Taylor says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making more self-expression or more your vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and environments are dominant?
Well, I believe you can apply both perspectives. It depends. So if you talk about, let's say, history of art, okay, you would be looking at this second way, right? So artists are vehicles for whatever grand processes are happening and so on. But if you look at from the perspective of a particular artist, I don't know. So that would be probably their journey, their ambition, as you said, whatever it would be. And if in the process also some bigger pictures talk through him, fine, but it's not necessarily seen when you look at it from the personal perspective.
Can art making be egoless?
As I said, art is so diverse, it can be anything.
Is perception reality?
Oh my God, it's just like I'm suddenly in this philosophy examination that I had to do when I was doing my postgraduate studies. So we had to take several exams, and one of them was philosophy. I think, yes, they got me to talk about stuff like that. Can I pass? I'll pass on that.
Well, now you can pass all you want. No, Lily Tomlin says it well. She says reality is just a collective hunch.
Good for her.
Tell me one major element of your creativeness, educating and map making, mind mapping, that stayed the same, and one major element that's changed in the years you've been doing this.
All right. So connecting unexpected elements, that would be it.
That's the same or that's changed?
Oh, that stayed the same. Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, so
connecting. Yeah. Now, what stayed the same? I mean, what's changed? Sorry, that stayed the same. What changed?
What changed? What changed in my creative process? What changed? Okay. So I'm now probably more eclectic. So at some point, I thought I had to work out a particular style and maybe stick to it. I abandoned that idea, and now I just try different things a lot. What you've probably only seen mind maps, but in some of my other drawings, I do something entirely different.
Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Okay. Right. All right. So I have this weakness for drama, right? I mean, this drama queen. So I use this drama queening, creatively as a source of stories of or art.
Really good. In fact, experimental filmmaker Hollis Frampton said, narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. Can you forget to die?
No, well, once again, I can only answer it in my current context. My memento mori is always with me. I'm just literally waiting to die like every day because I'm not sure that I'm going to make it till the next day.
And back to storytelling and narrative, what's the difference? One person told me narrative doesn't lie, storytelling does. What's the difference between narrative and storytelling, if any?
Well, I'm not sure how they use these terms. It's not how I use them. Definitely, narratives lie. By definition, that's what narrative is. That's
Yeah.
a connecting elements that, in a way that's not necessarily true. It does not reflect anything objective, and so on. That's a narrative. That's narrative fallacy. That's what we do. But probably here they talk about what we call like fabula and sujet from Russian formalists. That's like the story and the plot. That's the terminology. So the story and the plot. The story is linear, but when authors create their plots, they rearrange elements, they do flashbacks, blah blah blah. So they create plots. Probably that's what they meant.
Yeah. This is Proust. On what occasion do you lie?
This is Proust. Oh, good.
No,
Hello, Proust.
Proust asked this question, so I'm just telling you the source of the question.
Yeah, I know. I'm just happy to hear from Marcel Proust. You mean Marcel Proust? Yes, because he was my reading project before Joyce, so that's why I'm overjoyed and say bonjour, Monsieur Proust. Okay, so once again, sorry. So what was the Proust question?
On what occasion do you lie?
On what occasion do I lie? Is that what he wants to know? Okay, probably, okay, while establishing meaningful connections with human beings, impossible without lying. Unfortunately, trying to reduce their number of lies, but you just can't tell the truth all the time because you will just ruin all your meaningful relationships.
I asked for 90 minutes. We got about 8 more minutes. Can you go a little longer?
So like for 15 minutes, yes.
15 minutes longer?
Yeah.
Wow. You're generous. Thank you. Fill in the blank. Anger can be a productive emotion when.
When you channel it, when you navigate it, and when you put it into creativity, for example, or once again, in Ukraine, we channel our anger, what Russia is doing, into the active fighting, into donating, into volunteering. We have also this saying, so if you're angry after the night missile attack, okay, it's now the time to direct your anger into donation and so on and so forth. By the way, in our Ukrainian group, we have been doing it from day one. We've been raising donations for the Ukrainian army. So whatever Ukrainians are doing, we are channeling our anger into one very important thing, and that is fighting the enemy.
I asked my friend who wrote comedy with Robin Williams, can satire be destructive? He said, that's the job of satire. But if me or you do a cartoon in a certain country and they kill us, some people think dying is destructive. Swift compared satire to a mirror in which people could see every face but their own. What's the function of satire?
Destructive if it's successful, but rather disruptive. let's say, yes, subversion and disruption.
Yeah. Good words. You're a wordsmith. I appreciate this. What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside? I'm glad you're laughing.
Oh, so I know what I'll spend this 15 minutes on this question because it's a long list.
No. You got to be brief here. I got a lot more
Oh,
important.
why? Why do
No,
you
no,
want
no.
to
I'm not. I'm just joking. You can do whatever you want. You've
I'm
been
sorry.
so brief. You've been so brief and concise. Yeah, go
Right,
ahead.
but now you've asked the question, so I can finally be, eloquent and a woman of many words. So, number one, they presume. They are the epitome of presumption, and mostly they presume that they know. They hate not knowing. They hate to admit that they know nothing about you. They think they know what you want. I've been listening to this podcast the other day, Sex and Psychology, and they discussed the topic, what can men do to become better lovers? And so there was the host and the guest, and they talked about this kind of men who think that in sex, it's men who know better what the women want. Don't ask the women, men know. Well, this is exactly what it is. It doesn't just apply to sex, to everything. No. Right. You wanted me to be concise. I think that's a good one. Say, yeah.
No,
Uh,
that's a very good one. And I'll just say, Frank Zappa says, I'm a failure, but I'm not a miserable failure. And I think that I try to strive for not knowing and uh asking stupid questions. That's like, how can a question be stupid? You don't know something, so you ask it. And then people go, well, that's a false dichotomy. And well, I understand. And it's how you suss it out. And that's what you've done well. You suss it out and you act civil. Most people say, when I ask what's the difference between men and women, they go, men are linear, women are emotional. And I know that's the cliche. And the thing is that there's some truth to everything they say. But my favorite answer, Linda, is what's the difference between men and women? They go, nothing. We're all humans.
We are humans, of course, but unfortunately, this comes from actual experience that happened over and over again. You want to tell them who you are, but they already know. They're not interested.
Yeah. You create what you resist. Or Bobcat, the comedian, morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your brain is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So I'm just curious your thoughts on this line. You create what you resist. I'm not saying you, Linda, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts?
Well, when you put it like resist, it kind of makes sense. But this one, we are what we hate. I don't like defining myself when people define themselves through the things that they hate. I think it's much better to define yourself through what you love.
Yeah.
And then, like I have done today, so I've been talking about things that I love. So I am a teacher, I'm a reader, I'm a dancer, I'm an artist. These are all the things that I love. They define me. Even if I hate something at the moment, I hope it will be over and I will reach the stage when the only definitions of myself that matter will be the definitions for love.
Do you consider yourself more an optimist or more a pessimist?
A pessimist.
Really? Because what you just said seemed to me as being optimistic. Did you get what you just said before that more from on your own or the way your parents raised you?
What I said previously, I said the word hope, right? I hope that I will get to
Yeah.
that stage, which means, in my terms, I mean that I hope that the war will be over and I will think more in categories of what I love, and I won't have to think in the categories of what I hate, right? But this hope doesn't mean that I believe it will necessarily happen. I hope it will, but I don't have a conviction that it will. So I'm a pessimist. I used to be optimistic, but everything I had to go through, well, turned me into a pessimist. My parents, I don't know. So my parents and I, we had to go through the collapse of the Soviet Union. That's a kind of event that subverts everything that you know, and you are left with this like existential uncertainty about everything. I don't know how we can be even optimistic after that. Some people in Ukraine, they find their sources of optimism. I'm also trying to, but I'm not very good at it.
But did you get hopefulness in that terms you just talked about, as the hope, the belief in hope from the way your parents, more from the way your parents raised you, or more on your own?
Probably on my own.
Yeah. These are 5 quick Alan Watts questions off the top of your head. 1, who started it all?
It all started with the Big Bang.
Are we going to make it?
I doubt it. I'm a pessimist.
Where do we put it?
Where the sun doesn't shine.
4, who's cleaning it up?
Now, some kind of cosmic janitor.
The cosmic janitor. You are truly you're a poet. That's good. Cosmic janitor. Okay, 5, is it serious?
Obviously not. Nothing is serious.
How do you find peace of mind?
I don't.
If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Brace yourself. Okay, so to think about my school, you asked me earlier about my school. I didn't tell you. So I went to this math school. It was too much math. And okay, math is good for you, no problem. But it was really like too much. They were really focused. And I remember this weekend spent doing a math problem after math problem. And I asked myself now, so why did I even have to do all that? But I was kind of this good, conscientious student. So I would tell myself to just do enough math to pass. Just forget about being in the top of your class. It doesn't matter. Go and have some fun.
Yeah. Wow. Utah Phillips says anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
We only need rules when there is a group of people, it's a kind of community. So ideally, the community decides on the rules, and it's too big someone in this community who is capable of thinking.
The word freedom etymologically breaks down to exactly what Utah said, giving oneself one's own laws. What does freedom mean to you now?
Yeah, I like this connection with laws, but to me now, freedom is at least the ability to maintain your own search, your own research, your own beliefs and so on, without too much pressure from outside. So for me, for example, as a philologist, that has always been the freedom to conduct the research that I want, not what they say at university. So this field is, for example, requires some research. Maybe it does, maybe it requires, but please let me research what I want. to do. So my intellectual quests must be my own.
Yeah. What's the difference between art and science, if there is one?
Oh, well, so science is the search of truth. Art is not necessarily concerned with truth. It's concerned with creating this vision, as I said, right? So, a world, sub-creation, a world of our own. It doesn't have to be truth. It can be, but that's not the point.
How do you react to Jean Cocteau? Art is science made clear.
Art is science made clear. I'll go back to my previous answer about art. Art is diverse. It can be one of its variations, but there are many more.
Here's McLuhan. When we push our paradigms back, we get history. When we push them forward, we get science. Any reaction?
Paradigms. Who are these paradigm pushers? I don't know. Uh, yeah, so for me, it's another metaphor which needs unpacking. I'm not exactly sure how to unpack. Could be right. I'm not sure how to work with paradigms in this context.
Chomsky, we learn more about ourselves from literature than from science. Any comment?
Mm, Speak for yourself. That's my answer to him.
I love it. Thank you. And here's one more. McLuhan said in 69, interior landscape. Um, James Joyce solved numerous problems which science has not yet formulated as problems.
So it's back to this whether he predicted stuff or not. All right, I don't know what problems he actually solved, but probably beautifully uh, hid in the text, maybe. I don't know. But I'm not sure that he has effectively solved anything.
Yeah. It's funny because Tony Conrad says it about art. He says artists break laws that haven't even been made yet. But I forgot a question. I have to go back. You just reminded me of it. Um, T.S. Eliot said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
So I've been learning different languages. Uh, as a teacher of English, I'm probably using English on a daily basis more often than any other language. So quite often my inner dialogue is in English, and I know it. Then sometimes I speak to people in Ukrainian, for example, but there's like the short reactions, like for example, oh, Jesus, they come out in English. So that's how I know. But now that I'm learning Italian, for example, some things come out in Italian. In my dreams, I can get dreams in different languages. So I think it's that Tower of Babel situation going on in my head.
Tower of Babel, yeah. And if it's not that, it's metaphorically, what form is your inner consciousness in?
Language. It has to be the Tower of Babel this way
Yes.
or another.
Tower of Babel's great. Louis Buñuel says, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. Everybody goes, yeah, that's right. I agree. And one guy goes, that's bullshit. Because if I'm going to seek something, it's because I want to find it. So the cliche is the journey's more important than the destination. Why do we have to name or seek a destination if the journey's more important?
Well, there it's a process. So of course it's a cliche. We say journey before destination, but it's the destination that defines the journey, unless of course we wander aimlessly as a cloud that flows on high or vales and hills. That's a
It's good.
poem.
What poet is that?
Daffodils by William Wordsworth.
Oh, it's Wadsworth.
Hmm.
Um, Shelby Foote said, "A fact is not a truth until you love it." Any comment?
Well, I know a lot of facts that I don't love. So no, no.
Nope, that's good.
No.
Okay. Um, if a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what title would it be?
Out, brief, candle.
They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
I like the smell of thyme, the plant, wild mountain thyme.
If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Underwater would be nice. White marble underwater in the shape of a mermaid. That.
Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Banana plantation.
Beautiful. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I would tell God, that sun and the dust that I wanted, I think it's the right time to do it.
What's that? You're one of the best interviews I've ever done. I really appreciate your time here. We got a few more. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Okay. Um, okay. Continuing our sex topic, okay. People paying more attention to clitoris, becoming clitorid, and shifting from putting, the phallus into the center of everything. I like that.
Yeah. I recommend it. My article called "Can Art Stop War?" It goes into Maria Gambudis, the archaeologist, and Rianne Eisler, Chalice and the Blade. Have you ever read them?
No, I don't think so.
You might check them out because they're basically people saying we're more hardwired for cooperation than we are for violence because of matristic civilization. It's called, you know.
Okay, good.
I didn't follow up the question, but I should. What caused matriarchy?
All right. Unexpected lucid period in humanity.
Yeah. What's a question that remains unresolved for you?
Now, well, a lot of moral issues. I don't exactly know what to think of them. Like, for example, prostitution should be legalized. What should my attitude to be? These kinds of questions. Quite a lot of them. I
Yeah.
keep thinking about them, and there are these pros and cons. I don't know what to think.
Yeah. How has being an educator shaped your behavior?
I am very concise and articulate.
To quote Gerry,
To quote Gerry Fialka, right?
take that, touche. How has studying, or whatever verb you want to say, how has participating in Finnegan's Wake reading group shaped your behavior?
Okay, so in several ways. Firstly, I feel more comfortable reaching out to strangers because Alexander and I have been reaching out to people in other Finnegan's Wake reading groups, to strangers, telling them who we are, and we want to invite them. We want to talk about Finnegan's Wake. That's first thing. And then dealing with literature in general, going, for example, to a book club. I've been to a poetry discussion session a year ago, and the poem was not particularly complex, but people were baffled with it, and they said, "But it's so difficult. It makes no sense." And I will go, "Yeah, right. Try Finnegan's Wake." That's how it shaped mine. But of course, it sounds elitist and snobbish, blah blah blah. So I'm trying to hide my Finnegan's Wake, newfound love of complexity from people who want to preserve their mental energy for something else.
Yeah. Well, that's good because it reminds me of, maybe you've studied his book or looked at it, John Gordon, Finnegan's Wake plot summary book, or his he has a website. He's one of the foremost Joycean scholars. You know John Gordon, you should have him on your as a guest.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so we have several of this, and I know him. I haven't read that because, as far as I can, I try to avoid criticism on Joyce. At the moment, I have nothing against it, but sometimes I look at specific articles. For example, in the recent bit, we found this Turkish cluster. And I found an article on the internet just about the Turkish references. So I might read what is immediately relevant for the bit we're discussing.
Oh, can you send me a link to the Turkish article?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. So it's funny because I brought up John because when I asked him all these questions, I asked him, how has studying Finnegan's Wake shaped your behavior? And he said camaraderie. And that's sort of like the hidden psychic effect. He's like, I'm studying literature, and he didn't realize that he made friends, through this phenomenon, and it was beautiful.
That's one of the best things about reading Finnegan's Wake experience. You go into it, you understand that there are other people out there, and you have this legitimate right to reach out and say, oh, you're reading Finnegan's Wake. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the question you ask on your website? Will we wake up? Or what is the question will we ever wake? What's your answer to that?
Okay. So let's let's open up my optimistic side and say maybe.
It's a good word. Okay, two more and we're out of here, Linda. Really been fun. This is Thornton Wilder, who, have you ever seen his book? It's about this thick on all his letters about Finnegan's Wake. He wrote a play called Our Town in 1928. He said, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
I really loved that metaphor about finding it and hiding it. That's the joke I like to make about the Holy Grail, right? So that's what you do when you find the Holy Grail. You quickly hide it somewhere else. Okay. Yeah. So what it's all about, let's make it about the Holy Grail. It's about finding the Holy Grail and then quickly find a new hiding place for it.
Beautiful. The guy the person goes to his guru and says, what's the best question I can ask you? And the guru goes, the one you just asked me.
Yeah.
What gives you the most optimism?
Oh, what gives most optimism to a pessimist? Okay, I'll say my kids. So I have a son and a daughter, and they come from a different age, and that gives me optimism. They are really different from my post-Soviet generation. They are growing in the world, which is significantly different, and they think differently. Oh, I love that. So that's my source of optimism.
How old are your children?
So my son is 21 and my daughter is 13.
And can I ask how long are you still with your husband?
No, we're separated.
Yeah. So I want to thank you. This has been immensely important for me in learning, and I think you've really been generous with your time and energy. The first question I ask is, what's the best thing for a human being? And Wilhelm Reich said, the best thing for a human being is another human being. And the last question I ask is, what gives you the most optimism? Is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it was you. Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you, Gerry. It was great.
I will hit the end broadcast button now, but I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Cheers.
Thank you.